on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
When I start questioning AI, like I'll put in something, I'll say, hey, tell me about this or tear this presentation apart. It always comes up with other things. Like to me, the gold in using AI is finding that question at the end because it's not insurance. I want you to document to the level of your State Practice Act and a judge and jury. If you do that, the insurance stuff takes care of itself. I want you to be able to walk into court and your notes are so clear that some dummy on a jury understands exactly what you did. But if you put 2 carpals lidocaine, took out old filling, put in new filling, shade A3, patient's bite was great, left, like that's not going to be enough. It's not. I pay everything online, pay by text, I schedule. I don't want to call the office. If they have a scheduling portal, I'm all over it. Like, I think people like to be left alone and do what they need to do, and I'm going to let that happen.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 506. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. We have another fantastic episode for you. We have Teresa Duncan on the show, and we kind of talked about this a little bit in the episode, but the impetus of this episode was because of some things that I had heard in a mastermind call a few weeks back. Now, I'm lucky enough that I get to be basically a fly on the wall in these calls, and I just listen, try to absorb all of the words that are coming out of all these really smart people's mouths. And this particular call, I was listening to them speak at such a high level on AI. Now, listener, for you and me, we probably have a very limited understanding about the capabilities of AI, especially as it pertains to dentistry. And I think a lot of the publications have done a really good job of focusing on the clinical aspect of it. And those are the kinds of things that we've kind of paid attention to. But as I was sitting here listening, these brilliant people were talking about all of these other applications in dentistry that I had never even heard of. I was just blown away. And so that's why Teresa's on today to kind of share some of that with us today. But also, maybe this is the mischievous Andrew part of me, but Teresa and I actually have this kind of, it's not super long standing, but kind of a standing back and forth disagreement when it comes to chart notes, because I was just ever so frustrated one day, and I was venting to her, and then she was trying to put me in my place, telling me that I was wrong, and she thinks that she's right, and she thinks that, and then I think I'm right. And so I wanted to kind of carry that over to the podcast just so that it's public record. So one of these days, one of us ends up being wrong, we can hold this episode over the head of the other. I think that'd be really funny. So hopefully you enjoy that part of the show too. And look, I mean, if you're like me, you're probably going to agree with me on that part about how we need to maybe not have so much required to put in our notes. But anyways, that's for another time. In other news, there is a new journal that was launched recently through O'Hare University, and I'll make sure I put a link in the show notes, but it's easy to remember. It's ohupublishing.com. And the journal is called the International Journal for Applied Health Behavior Change. And their mission's pretty beautiful. Basically, their mission is they're trying to collect the research, collect the knowledge, and share that knowledge and also skills so that our patients have true long-term behavior change. Because they recognize, just like many of us do, that we simply cannot just instruct our patients to do better and expect the results will follow. Rather, we need to really partner with them. And in order to partner with them, we need a skill set that maybe we don't necessarily always have, because the types of patients that we have are so vast. And so we need to have lots of arrows in our quiver just to make sure that we are prepared for anything that might be presented to us. And so that's what the journal is hoping to achieve. So the first edition is now out. It's a peer-reviewed journal. It's free for all hygienists, all dental therapists. So be sure to go head over to that site when you have a second, ohupublishing.com. Many thanks to the efforts of Trisha and Tim. They are incredible people. We're so lucky to have these types of people in dentistry that are creating projects like this for our benefit. We have also longtime friend Linda Douglas, who is the editor-in-chief of this journal. And there also, if you go through the contributors, you're going to recognize a lot of the faces. We've had several of them on the podcast in the past. And so you just know it's a really well done journal with lots of amazing contributors. So thank you to all of them for their efforts on that. All right. I think that's it for this one. Thanks for being here and enjoy this discussion with Teresa Duncan.
A tale of two hygienists.
All right, listeners, welcome into the interview portion of the podcast, joined today by Teresa Duncan. Teresa, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me back again. Always good to see
You
you.
know, one thing I didn't actually say, I think by the time this releases, I'll have like 13 episodes left. And so one of the things I wanted to do is like have my favorite people on like these last 15, 20 episodes.
Aw.
And then I couldn't find anybody. So I didn't ask you to come on.
See, I was like, my heart was warming, and then there it goes.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Well,
lot.
okay. Yeah. No, well, listeners, you've heard some of our other friends on the podcast lately. We've been talking a lot about these mastermind groups, and Teresa and I were talking in that group just a few days ago, kind of more about AI. And I think that I've sold you all short, unfortunately, on all of the applications that actually exist out there, and that's because I just didn't know. So we're in this thing, Teresa, and I'm like, I asked a simple question: do you guys have someone that can speak on this? And then all of the list of AI tools that you talked about just blew my mind, and a lot of them are non-clinical tools, and I'm like, "Holy crap, this space has absolutely exploded." And part of it, I think, though, too, is from 6 months ago when I asked someone about it until now, like, it really has evolved and changed. So tell me more about, like, first of all, why do you have an itch to, like, think about AI all the time?
So it's almost like I get so much extra stimulation from it, and I don't need that, but in a good way. So when I start questioning AI, like I'll put in something, I'll say, "Hey, tell me about this," or tear this presentation apart. It always comes up with other things. Like to me, the gold in using AI is finding that question at the end, because what will happen, listeners, if you've never used it, is you'll put in something like, "Tell me what dog breed I need." Like what dog breed would be good for me, right? Let's just do that. And whatever program you're using will be like, "Well, tell me more about you, blah, blah, blah," and then whatever, and then it'll give you a whole list of dog breeds, and then the question after that will always be, "Do you wanna learn more about allergy-free dog breeds, or do you want me to make this into a chart?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah, of course I do." So it's a lot of times it's the chat prompting you to continue to take the step in another direction, and that's sort of what we were talking about in the mastermind, where one of the members was saying how she uploaded her presentation into
Mhm.
it and said, um, "Give me any spots where I was redundant," and she had recorded herself, and it was basically like, "Did I say the same thing over again? How can I polish my skills?" And it took a minute, and it gave her, like, this beautiful output of, "This is how you could improve. You went over this twice in your slides." Like, that's wild to me, and it's like having, like, a minion at your beck and call. It's amazing. I like it. I like it.
L Can I ask a clarifying question about,
Sure.
like, her presentation and how she actually did that? Because I didn't wanna be the, normal moron in the group and not know. So did so she recorded herself and she uploaded a video file, and
She
then the
uploaded
AI was reading the video file?
She uploaded the audio file, so it listened
Okay.
to her and her breaks and everything, and then she uploaded her slides. And you can either upload it as a PowerPoint, or you can upload it as a PDF, and it will go over, like, what's on the slide. So, for me for her, she does a lot of social media, and it's kind of more like a lot of pictures and things like that. So I think she was really focusing on the audio. For me, with insurance and revenue cycle and all of that, like, it picks up on when I talk about adjustments in certain insurances twice. So that I've used it for that. Not a lot of redundancies, but there were times when I caught it and I was like, "Wait a second. Oh, I should probably bring this over here." And that was something that she mentioned, is that she could say, "Is there a better flow to this presentation?" And she's done that before. Her and I have talked, and she has had it suggest different ways to do the presentation. So, from an educational point of view, from a speaking professional point of view, I'll take any feedback I get, because a lot of times we get feedback like, "Yeah, that was interesting," or, "Oh, I was kinda bored," like, but I want feedback on, "This part would have been better here, and this would have flowed better here, and you could have left that whole part out." Like, that to me is very valuable feedback, and I think that's why she was doing that for her presentations.
I don't know, my brain obviously goes in lots of different directions as you, like, I think what you get out of AI, I get out of you. Like, you're my AI bot, and I'm like, okay. So then, yeah. So if you're a speaker, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, now also if you want to become a writer, Jackie
Mhm.
Sanders was on the podcast just recently. She talks a lot about that kind of stuff. Development. Like, here's some tools there. But I would imagine there's also, like, really freaking practical things that we could do, even chair side. Hey, give me an analogy for this situation. Give me an analogy for this situation. How can I talk about maybe this product with a patient? How can I explain this disease? Something like that. But what program are you using? Because everyone says ChatGPT, but like that can't be the only program that you use for this
Yeah,
type of thing.
ChatGPT is fine. I use a program called Perplexity. I like that better. And for me, I do a lot of research, and for me, I have the pro version, and I find that it does a lot better research than ChatGPT does. But the thing with GPT or any of the AIs is that you might use one, and then 2 weeks later, the other one's better. Like, it's a constant, like, what are you comfortable with an interface? And there's a program I also have called U.com, and it will bring in different engines from the different AI softwares. And I have a year free. I have to decide if I wanna pay for a whole year, but it's been super helpful to say, "Okay, so basically, I'm trying it, but within this browser, so I can do Chat's engine, then I can go over to Perplexity's engine, so I don't have to keep switching. 'Cause that right now is the big issue is, like, if you really wanna get the most out of AI, you've got, like, 4 or 5 different big options to choose from, and honestly, like, nobody wants to switch between and copy paste the same thing over and over again. I wanna do it in one. That's a whole different business model I think that's gonna get better is aggregators, AI aggregators, but that's not what we wanna talk about today. Um,
No, no, it's not.
maybe next time, right? But I do think that the whole use in the dental office, we're just seeing the beginning of it. I mean, one area of usefulness, and we were just in a group chat I was in a group chat with another bunch of office managers, and this one girl was like, I'm trying to put together like an agenda for this OSHA HIPAA meeting that I have to have. I'm so bored. Like, she has to do the update. So I told her, I said, go create some flashcards. Ask ChatGPT to give you a list of 20 flashcards to use in a HIPAA reminder, an OSHA reminder webinar, and she did, and she took it over to Canva, and she came up with all these flashcards, and it was super simple. She didn't have to go research or anything. It just came up with all these terms, and she was quizzing her team. Like, that's super easy. So that cut out a lot of thought for her. That was
But
nice.
she had the foundational knowledge though, right? I mean, you can't
Mhm.
like I guess where I get kind of nervous is like, okay, someone listening to this podcast, they're just getting out of school and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna be the expert now in OSHA because I'll have ChatGPT do all my flashcards for me.
Yeah, that would be a
Like there's a
problem.
danger there.
Yeah, because it draws from different sources, and that's why ChatGPT, it will tell you the sources, but it's not as like, for me, it's better with Perplexity, like, it tells you a big list of sources, and you can even tell it, "Don't ever use this source again," like, if you think it's a suspicious area. So I've done that, and for more research, though, it's just heavier for research, but you're right, you do have to have a little bit of foundational knowledge, but think about all of the team members coming in. I mean, you got training on terminology. Think of how many team members we throw in the back and we're like, okay, hygienist is gonna probe, so you just listen to what he or she says, and I'm looking at this chart of teeth and I'm like, what number? So that would be good to put them in front of this and have GPT give you flashcards for all of that. I mean, you can get this stuff, it's available, but it's right there in your office. It's super simple. And there's a lot of other administrative ways that I've seen AI being used, but the clinical is where the kind of fun action is, though.
I mean, ish. I think about that training though. Sorry, again, my brain just like keeps. You know how great that would be is if we could get an onboarding, right? Most, not everyone, most larger companies do onboardings.
Mhm.
And it's you just have it help you with the modules. Like, hey, create these modules in this thing. So I just started using it. I don't use it for the cool stuff that everyone else is using it for. Mine's mostly like recipes and dumb things like that. But I like just the voice prompt. Like
Yeah.
I like being able to talk to it as opposed to having to type it all out.
Uh-huh.
But how much like if I'm driving and that's when I get all my inspiration, boom, turn on my app, start talking to it, have it
Yep.
create these modules. Hey, I have someone that has this very specific problem. Put it in the module 14 with these other ones, and it kind of creates it for you. And all you have to do at that point is just edit it. Like that sounds so nice.
That's totally possible, and even better is when it talks back to you and it's like, That's great, but could we suggest this?" Or, "Maybe consider this," and that's when you're like, "Oh." So, it will start to talk back to you. So, our friend that was excited about our presentation, she's next level with hers. She has the
Yeah.
Pro GPT, account. She's named her GPT. They actually converse. And the stuff she's getting is amazing. Like it actually will push back at her about things. And that's
Really?
wild. That's wild to me. I'm not ready to get into that kind of relationship, but I'm getting there.
No.
But I'm getting there. Look, I get enough pushback from my boys, right? My husband and my son. I don't want another
Yeah.
pushback. So,
I
and
know,
my GPT would
seriously.
probably be a male, so I'd have to name it. So it's like, I don't want another one telling me what to do. So I'm kind of a little reluctant.
All right, we're gonna pivot a little bit because I feel like this podcast is only for me. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm just getting all the stuff I want out of it. But I think it's time for us to give it back to them. So one of the things that we've done, I think, pretty cool. And you said it was like this is the exciting part is like the clinical side. I feel like we've done a lot of the clinical tools. You and I did argue a little bit about documentation and having something. Uh, so listeners, just like a little bit backstory of this one. We implemented an AI tool to go through and basically audit chart notes and compare them to like the walkout from the ledger, like making sure that everything was working. And I was talking with Teresa and I was saying, hey, all of our people are frustrated by this thing um because it is pushing back. It is not talking, to each other the way that we were hoping it was. It's not so seamless. It's not so easy. And she's like, "Well, about this and this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's asking for too many things." Like, I have a chart note that's now like a novel over here, and we don't need any of this stuff. And then you're like, "Oh, no, you do need all that stuff." So, I do wanna kind of go into the documentation thing a little bit before we get into some of the other tools that are out
Sure.
there.
Sure.
So, I want you to kinda repeat a little bit of things that you told me about some of the things that you're hearing as far as, like, new laws, new rules, things that we need to be paying attention to for documentation when we think that we're doing enough, but we're really not.
Yeah, and it's a constant struggle between the admin and the clinical team. And so, if your listeners have not heard me before, I live in the insurance and RCM space, revenue cycle management. So for me, documentation, I'm not back there with you. So the only way I know what you did is by reading your documentation, and and I can't defend the claim if I don't have the documentation. And that's the frustrating part is I know good dentists who just they're bad documenters, and so their claims don't get paid. I can't I can't just wave a magic wand and come up with a radiograph. I know some offices might do that. I can't do that, right? So I need the documentation. So I remember when you and I were talking, you're like, "Well, how long does a clinical note need to be?" And I'm like, "As long as it needs to be." Like that's the answer. And
Yeah, half a paragraph, that's all we need. That's what we
well,
need.
I need to know why you're doing the thing you're doing. Did the patient accept it? Is the patient okay with it? I want one patient statement like this was amazing or this sucked. Like I want something like that in there. I would like for my scaling and route plannings, and even for my same day crowns, time seated, time dismissed. It's not important to you, but for me, I get requests from insurance like how long were they in the chair because there's so many bad players out there billing 4 quadrants of SRP and they're only in the schedule for a half hour. So, I would love to see that, and I know you're like see, I already can see listeners, you
I'm
can't see
I'm
it, but
so
his
pissed about
wheels
this
is
already.
so annoyed with me right now for bringing this
I
up.
hate that. That's the dumbest thing ever. It's not up to an insurance company to determine how long it takes someone to do something.
It's not insurance. It's not insurance. I want you to document to the level of your state practice act and a judge and jury. If you do that, the insurance stuff takes care of itself. I want you to be able to walk into court and your notes are so clear that some dummy on a jury, let's just be, spicy about it. Some dummy on a jury understands exactly what you did. But if you put 2 carpiols lidocaine, took out old filling, put in new filling, shade A3, patient's bite was great, left, like, that's not gonna be enough. It's not.
That sounds complete. It sounds
I
like this is
it's
what we
not gonna be
did.
enough
This is how we
because
did it. This
check
is the
bite,
shade.
patient was fine with the bite, and then also, like, what was the material that you used? It's there's a lot more to it, and so if you document to the level of your state practice act, I can't complain to that, and in fact, if you document to that level, then I can go to the insurance company and say, "What you're asking for is above and beyond even what the state requires." That's a stronger case. So, what I'm saying is don't see it as insurance is making us do this. I see it as I want to protect your license as best as possible. And you are a license holder. Most of the time, I'm talking to dentists who are license holders. I'm talking to a whole bunch of people, admin people who aren't license holders. And they're more willing to protect your licenses than you guys are, which is why you and I have this back and forth all the time, right? Like, I'm like, "Why don't you protect your license?" You're like, "I do." And I'm like, "No, you don't." It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I don't think we're gonna have
Like,
any resolution on this for a while.
no, we will. We're gonna solve it right now. Because the thing is, there's a level of like, okay, if a surgeon is going in and doing a task, they don't literally say every little thing that they do because there's some understanding that in a procedure, this is the norm. And I understand, like, dentistry is not maybe as complex as most surgeries most of the time. And so if, like, you are doing a prophy, you've already did your gingival statements and stuff in the past note, like with a new patient exam or whatever, and then they come in for that
Mhm.
prophy appointment,
Yeah.
and you have to give a whole new gingival statement,
No,
or
I
you have
don't
to,
think
like,
so. You could point it to the previous clinical note, right? You could say, "As stated in," and previous clinical note, and then
like,
update it,
"Prophy
but you
completed today, go see all the other notes from the previous one," and then we're done.
that
So you have
that might
2
be
lines.
problematic. That might be
Okay.
problematic, the go see that part, but, I mean, there's a way to do it, and that's honestly why templates are needed because say you document really well today, but you're distracted tomorrow. We need some consistency is really another thing that we're after. So I would love to see clinical notes just be perfected, and I'm glad AI is going into this area because I'm taking the human element out of it, like, AI is gonna take the human element out of it, which is fine, and so this has been a big battle, and I'm not saying you guys are being ridiculous, clinical people. You guys are busy, honestly, super busy. I know some of you stay late to finish your notes, like, I don't envy that at all, but it is what it is, like, if you need to document it so that some dummy on a jury can understand it, that's just what has to happen. So if AI can make that better by doing the ambient listening, which is what we're seeing a lot, it's just on, it's listening, and then at the end, it's gonna guide the doctor or the hygienist through sounds like you did this procedure, and then you just click on the things you wanna keep, and then it documents, but there's going to have a space for, did the patient make a comment? Did the patient have any questions? And that's what we're looking for. If the patient had no questions, then put no questions. Like, that's what I'm looking for, but if the patient had a question, that needs to be noted because if the patient goes to court and says, "I had a lot of questions," and there's nothing in the notes about you asking questions, like, now the jury's caught saying, "Okay, well, who do I believe?" So I mean, are you likable enough to survive a jury is another question we should ask.
I can be likable enough, and I think that, look, if anyone's looking for an expert witness, let me know in the hygiene space. I would love to get in front of a jury and be like, "You guys are dummies. Like, this is so easy to understand." No, okay, I have 2 questions, about so the first thing is and they're both completely different questions. The first thing is timing. A lot of times, like, people will leave the clinic and go home and, log into their portal and write their notes that night. Sometimes they don't get to until the next day, or sometimes they'll start them and then edit them and finish them the next day. Are there legal concerns there? Are there other concerns that we need to do for those types of practices? And the ambient listening, where is that line for, like, the what is it, two-party consent
Yeah,
state
you
or
got you gotta
whatever? Like,
know what state you're in, yeah. You gotta know what state you're in and if they allow that, and, these AI companies should be researching that before they try to sell it to you is one thing. That's kinda due diligence, right? But I believe that you have to just have them sign a form, and honestly, with the ambient listening, they could just say, "I consent," so that's even better. Like, you don't even have to have them sign a form, actually, you could just say, "Is this okay?" And then that'd be great, like,
'cause
now
it's
that I'm
already
thinking about
listening.
yeah, it's in there, so it's fine. So going back to the timing of the notes, so, some software cuts off the ability to edit at the end of the day, at the 12 midnight type thing. There's something, and you probably read more state practice acts than I am, but there is something in the state practice acts about being contemporaneous, meaning close to the time of the event. And that's the same thing in the carrier documentation, like notes must be contemporaneous. And I believe I'm not gonna be an expert on this at all, but I believe there is like a 24, 48-hour window, but the closer is better. When it's like a week later is problematic, like,
Mhm.
when it's an excessive amount of time. But what they also would wanna know is what is your average time to complete chart notes, and if you're like, "Oh, yeah, I get them done that day, except for this one was a doozy," like, that's not gonna fly. So, yeah, but
That's a
I
really good
I
point.
believe the term is how do they it's contemporaneous, and it's how they define that is where I
Yeah.
would look, yeah.
There's just I love the ability though, a lot of these notes are time stamped. A lot of them are you can see your edits. Like there's no real like hiding notes anymore, right? Like, paper charts, you just like put in a new, chart entry whenever you
I
wanted
know.
to. And what are they gonna do? What is it? Carbon date the ink or whatever. Like,
No,
when did you
can
write
you
this? Like,
imagine?
this is not the right date.
Well, and also, like I back in the day, we used to if we started a new page, like we could just rip out the page and go to the next page, start over.
I won't say if this actually did happen, but there may or may not have been a practice that I worked at one point when we were still doing paper charts, that they would have to rewrite like half because remember it was the yellow ones, right? Like, and there's like they'd rewrite and they'd have different pens for different colors and all this stuff to try and
Right.
make it look like it wasn't all written at the same time. And then they'd have different people write a few like entries at a time. And so it was so bizarre, like kind of what they used to
That is
allegedly
bizarre.
or perchance do. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about some more tools,
Mhm.
kind of maybe the ones that clinicians might not know so much about. There's been a lot of talk about kind of more on like the submissions of the claims. And
Mm.
I know there was one company that we had interviewed that like helps us with like our radiographs. And they have a really good relationship with the insurance companies. And they
Mhm.
apparently they use like a similar software to see if claims should be approved or not, something like that.
Mhm.
What can you tell us about those types of tools?
So, my warning to all consumers in the world of AI is that I'm always wary of any company that says we're the only ones that have this when it comes to AI, because just wait a week. And I mean, that might be true for this day at 4 o'clock. That might be true. And it's the same with FDA clearance. These companies that say they have all these relationships with the payers and they're the only ones that do that. The payers will work with anyone they can work with to make their job easier. They're never going to be exclusive to one product. So that's just silly. They'll never sign an exclusive. The company may sign an exclusive, but the carriers will not sign an exclusive. So one thing that I'm excited about with the radiographs is and they're all looking at exactly what you said. So basically the image would be able to be seen by the carrier. And if this doctor doesn't have a history of overutilization and their radiographs are traditionally easy to read, so they're not like cone cuts and all that, they're good diagnostic value radiographs, then the chances of them going ahead and approving the claim are much higher. So some are actually working on a line by line where you don't even have to prepare a claim. It's like you can upload the treatment plan and it will tell you, because we've been able to look at your x-rays through whatever magic they're doing. For crown number two, you don't even need to send an x-ray in. Like, we've already got it in our system. It's fine. It's good to go. That's amazing. Like, we're probably less than a year from that being predictably good. We're probably 3 months away from it hitting the market, because I've already seen 2 behind the scenes before they haven't launched yet. But I think 6 months before is predictable, because right now it's gonna be a lot of glitches, and so you can't be promised all this AI magic. There's glitches everywhere, that's another thing, and user error is always gonna be a problem. But the imaging is just amazing on its own. Perio charting and all of that, just the fact that they can combine a perio chart and the image and come up with, like, a 3D perio chart is wild. That's wild.
It
Like,
it is wild. It's everyone's like, yeah, like, "Man, if this could ever happen," we've been talking about for, 30 years, and finally the tools are here.
mhm,
Do you feel like look, I don't know a whole lot about the restorative side as far as, like, getting claims approved and paid, and so this might be a really dumb question, but I remember there was a time when we would take the pre-op, X-ray, and
mhm,
then we would have to take an intraoral image of it after being prepped, and then
mhm.
we'd have to take another post like, after build-up and core, like, then another image at that point. Does all that is that all that still holding true? And are all a lot of times our radiograph imagery isn't necessarily in the same place as our intraoral scans
Right,
imagery. They can
right.
live in 2 different places. So are the companies now combining all of that into one, I guess, cloud storage space?
Yeah, they're looking to do that. So that what 2 of the ones that I know, I'm pretty sure they're all of them, honestly, it's just 2 that I know for sure. They're looking at merging and being able to acquire your intraoral images. Either you screenshot and send it over, and they have AI for your intraoral images. That's wild to me that they could apply AI technology to that, because at least with radiographs, like, There's a lot of proven stuff there, like AI for an image to be of diagnostic quality is wild. A lot of times our intraoral images are not of diagnostic quality. It's just
Mhm.
like, here's what it is. Like, I don't think most people use our intraoral images for purely diagnostic reasons. Maybe I could be wrong. So it's weird to me that they require that, but that particular insurance company that you're talking about started that, and then the other one said, "Oh yeah, we want all those X-rays too." It's starting to swing back the other way, your listeners should know, because the amount of time it takes for them to process all these additional attachments, which they have to pay storage for, the carriers do, they don't like it.
Mm.
So if they can actually use these imaging softwares, they don't have to host it anymore. They're just scanning it and evaluating it. That's a huge savings for them. And if they can go ahead and approve it, the fact is a lot of claims are denied, but not as much as many think. Like, the vast majority, like 95, 96% of claims that are filed in a day all across America are paid. It's that small percentage that get held up, and I know it feels like it's all in your office. That's not the case, but in the grand scheme of things, think of how many hundreds of thousands of claims are sent a day. If they denied all of them, it would be insanity, like, there would be a mutiny, right?
Right,
So,
right.
I think if they can even lower that burden by approving via radiograph, intraoral radiograph, that's great, that's fantastic, and they're all moving in that direction, they are. So, the imaging, I think, more exciting to a lot of clinicians, the imaging, because it's just you're gonna be able to see so much, and for patient gosh, for treatment plan presentation, that's a slam dunk. But yeah, my little documentation soul is more excited about being able to have consistent chart notes and look at it from the other side, Andrew. If you're working with medical and dental medical billing, which some of our people are, this
Mhm.
software now is going to be able to write letters of medical necessity. It's going to be able to write referring letters. I mean, to me, that's a big pain in the butt, so I'm glad to never have to do that. Yeah. And imagine you as a hygienist, Andrew, you get a great visit with somebody and AI writes a little note and puts a little snippet of their period chart in there, and at the end of the day, you email them, and you don't really have to think about it. Like, that's kinda cool. You email the
You know
patient.
what is really cool is if it makes your job easier and you're happier and nicer to be around, then I would like you to have those tools for you.
I agree.
'Cause I'm a 'cause I win at that.
You make me sound terrible, but you know what? I agree.
No, 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 I mean, you slash the person that does your role, in all of the yeah, the roles that you're helping out with. Okay, what we got one more tool, that we can talk about before we gotta end. Is there anything else that we missed that, like, you are excited about or that you heard might be coming down the bike?
Oh, AI reception. AI
Let's
reception.
talk about it. Let's talk about it.
100%. So, listen, not everybody is fantastic on the phone, and not everybody's in a good mood every time they answer the phone. And I don't know if you've called a lot of offices, but I've had to call offices when they leave a message or whatever, and I'm like, "Wow, you just went for a smoke break, you're chewing on something. I don't know what you've got in your mouth, like, it's terrible." So, I want AI reception, and honestly, it's so good now. I've tried a bunch of them. They anticipate the answer the more they talk to your patients, like, they're really good. They're like, yeah, and they're not in a bad mood, and they're not gonna ask me for time off, and they're not gonna tell me Sally's fighting with Joan in the back. Like, this is amazing. Give me AI reception all day long.
Okay, I got questions.
Ah, I knew it.
So, my GPT, it's a very pleasant voice. I'm actually kinda surprised by how, like, conversational it does sound in tone, but it does have these repetitions where I'm like, "Oh, you are a freaking robot still." Like, I can tell that you're just not a real thing. And so, dealing with in Florida, a largely older population, I feel like this is gonna really put them off, will it not? Or is it better than
I
I
think it's
mean,
better than
I
expected. I think it's better than expected, and the beauty of it is it gets better all the time. So, I'm also testing just because of the RCM side of my business, I get asked to test a lot of AI robocallers to the insurance companies. And there are robocalls, these AI bots that will call and they will ask all about the status of a claim. Then they'll say, "Can I go ahead and file an appeal for you?" And they're talking. And if you listen to these audio, it's really good. Like, they get better and better. So I think you are going to be able to have somebody answer your phones. Think about your kids. Think about my boy who's 25. Like, he doesn't care if he's talking to a robot. Like, if it asks us
it's true.
questions and everything's fine, he doesn't care. In fact, he doesn't even wanna talk to the robot, he wants to text.
I was just going to say,
He wants
yeah,
to
it's gonna be
chat
tough.
on the website, so he doesn't even wanna do that, but if you think of just the interruptions in the front office, I an AI reception would be great. It's like having another receptionist sitting in the corner you don't have to interact with. It's awesome. I'm
You
super
know,
excited.
I bet my boys would be like, I don't know about Molly, but like the two boys would be like, I'd rather talk to a robot knowing it's not a real person there. 9 times out of 10. I just bet. But there's gotta be some unique situations that they can't handle though, right? I mean, this isn't about always just coming in like, "Hey, we wanna make an appointment." There's some pretty complex phone calls that have to happen.
Yeah, and like I said, it's getting better, and the more that you throw complex phone calls at them, they're gonna get better, they'll know how to handle it, but there's always the out of the patient can say, because they always tell the patient, "This is an AI voice," they shouldn't lie. I don't know if there's any companies that are out
No.
there, like, they should say, "I'm the office helper," or something like that, whatever they wanna call themselves, and so there is always an out where, "Would you like me to connect you with the receptionist?" And they can take that. It's like pressing the button. I don't wanna talk to an insurance rep. I'd rather go through the automated system if it could give me something quicker. So, it's the same thing as, like, calling and hitting 0 and getting frustrated. So, I don't think the public is as put off by it, as we are. I think we're more nervous about it.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, look, my people, my office managers and stuff, we were terrified to put in online portals to pay. We're terrified to give up control of our schedule, right? To put online scheduling in there. But I think of how I schedule both my parents' appointments. I pay everything online, pay by text. I schedule. I don't want to call the office. If they have a scheduling portal, I'm all over it. Like, I think people like to be left alone and do what they need to do, and I'm gonna let that happen.
Gosh, we're gonna clip that part out and put that in the front of this episode. Oh, Teresa Duncan, you are such a treat. I'm so glad to be able to do this one last podcast. But look, you have you're over the podcast space. Listeners, if you want to listen to her, I mean, she's got a lot of good things going on. How can people find you if they want to see a course, listen to your shows? Like, what can they do?
Sure. So Odyssey MGMT is my website, and you can find my YouTube channel with the video version of the podcast. Sometimes I might be able to get you on there, Andrew. We're still, trying. You were on one. I was impressed. You did do one. And there, look, he does it. You guys should see. He just wrinkled his nose at me like, "Don't tell people. Um, don't cut this out." So there's also nobody told me that is my main podcast. I also have Chew on This. I have a lot of insurance classes, management classes, and if you're a biller or a person who loves revenue cycle management and insurance, I have a membership called Dental Revenue Network, and you can always connect with me on there. So, yeah, and Andrew, you know where to find me. Somebody really
Oh
wants
yeah,
to find me, right?
absolutely, absolutely. All right, Teresa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, listeners, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to reach out to all of our guests. Give us a follow on social media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you have a minute, head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. All right, we'll see you on the next one. This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.